to see that before long, some form of limitation will recur in your life, in the now. And you surrender to that. You can change the situation, but knowing the limitless is not to be encountered in the world of form, because form means limitation. So, you say yes to the now, even if it is a form of limitation, seemingly. You surrender to that. Yes. And suddenly, around the seeming limitation, there is spaciousness. A certain depth. What really is arising here, although we need to be careful with words, all forms, thought forms, physical forms are conditioned. It's the conditioning. Conditioned consciousness, consciousness appearing as a form. Consciousness appearing as a thought form. Consciousness appearing in many, many forms. But there is, the appearance arises out of a vast realm of the unconditioned consciousness before it takes form. And that is within every human being. That dimension is there, one could say, underneath the conditioned, which is all thought forms and emotional forms. There's the depth of the unconditioned, which can be felt, cannot be known as such as you know an object in consciousness. People look for God or themselves, believing that at some point, in the future of course, they are going to find God or themselves as an object in consciousness, as a knowledge in a subject-object relationship, as if they could know it in the way that you can know a tree, but you can't, because the unconditioned is not an object. It is the ground out of which all mind objects in consciousness arise, into which they subside. So you can never know yourself in the normal sense of the word, but you can be that. And that is felt, one could say, it is a realm of stillness underneath the mental noise. And every word will reduce it. It is far more than that. Every word is no more than a little pointer. A realm of aware presence that is beyond thought. Thought can happen, come out of it, but in itself, it is consciousness, one could say, without thought, unconditioned. Oh, that is the deepest meaning of now. Because the strange thing about now is that it never leaves you and it doesn't change, the field of now. Because it is, the essence of now it is the unconditioned consciousness, the field in which all phenomena happen. And now the beauty here is to know that, one could say, you know the now beyond the form it takes. But you don't know it in a subject-object relationship. You know this field of now When you surrender to the form, you know that which is beyond form. That's surrender to the form, the limitation, and then there is that emerges that is beyond form and beyond limitation as yourself. And this goes against how everybody lives in this world. They do not surrender to the limitation of this form. They think they want to get away from it. Surrender to the form of now takes you into the depths of the now itself, which you then know as the essence of your being. But don't know anything about it. A direct, unitive knowing as yourself. I would go so far as to say that you are the now. Totally one with it. It never leaves you. You can't leave yourself. The essence, the unconditioned dimension of who you are. And when you know that, you can allow the conditioned and the form to be, and it's beautiful. The form as which you appear, because you don't need it anymore to derive a sense of self from it. Then the forms are beautiful also. You honor them really for the first time when you know yourself to be beyond the form. You honor all the forms completely also. So, to surrender to the limitation, the seeming limitation, this is the essential truth. The ultimate truth of all religions is the surrendered state of consciousness. There's even one religion that's called surrender, Islam. But it is the essence of all religion. In Christianity, that essence is contained in the image of the cross. Jesus on the cross is all of humanity. The cross is the ultimate symbol of extreme limitation. Couldn't be more limited than to be nailed to a cross. It's a torture instrument. So in a way, for a while, humans experience the world, which is the world of form, almost as a torture. It's so heavy. And then that can take a time until suddenly they can hear the message of surrender. And then at that moment, as symbolized by that image of Jesus, surrender happens on the cross, total surrender to extreme limitation and the seemingly unacceptable. Not my will, but thy will be done. Thy will is the will of the one. And then my and thy merge in the act of surrender. There's no longer my that opposes thy. When my and thy merge, there is total surrender. Your will is one with the totality. And at that moment, the cross becomes a symbol for the divine. The very limitation turns into the symbol for God or the divine. So it's not by resisting or running away from, but by that deep act of surrender that the divine is realized. And that, amazingly, does not take time. Surrender can only be now. It may take time to dwell in the surrendered state as your permanent state. You fall back into resistance because the momentum of the collective conditioning is so strong. And then you re-enter surrender. But the moment of surrender is always now, because you surrender to the now and in the now. So it can only be now. So that one decisive act or spiritual practice is the one that doesn't take time. And that's the beauty of it. It really means you don't need future to find yourself, and you need to add nothing to you to find yourself. Nothing. Then you can play with the realm of phenomena and add things. It's beautiful. It's a play. But you no longer need it for yourself. That's the essence of spiritual realization. All the teachings point to it. That is to see that, what grace to see that the very thing that looked so heavy, which is the world of form, the very thing that seemed to be limiting me on all sides, that very thing is the doorway into the formless and into who I am beyond form. And you see that ultimately they are one. Form is emptiness. Emptiness is form. They are one. And that is the message of eternal salvation, the most sublime message for humankind. Nothing else is needed but that. Thank you.